And that was Just a Day by Feeder here on 382 Radio. And it is now approaching 8 PM. It's 8:01 in fact. So, as promised, here's the interview I recorded earlier this week with the absolutely fantastic Danny Mac. And we're joined today by Danny Mac. How are you, Danny?
I'm fine, mate. How are you?
I'm great, thanks. So let's kick straight into it. How long have you been making music?
Well, I've been making music since I was probably about 16, but I kind of stopped about 5 years ago, and only recently, about a month and a half, has started making music again. So it's kind of on and off.
And what was it that first inspired you to get into music?
Hearing Nirvana, I guess, Smells Like Teen Spirit, the way the guitars crunched.
Yeah.
You know, I loved it, and it just made me want to learn how to play guitar and kind of, you know, like progress along it. And then I kind of went into like bands in like Rancid and Operation Ivy, and I just kind of went from there, man.
So you mentioned you learned to play guitar. Do you play any other instruments, or are you just a guitar person?
Well, I've got a bass and I've got a MIDI controller, you know, for like production and stuff.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't even call myself a guitarist. I'd call myself a guitar player.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, 'cause I haven't played until recently. Like, I can only remember the blues scale.
Yeah.
So I think when I get a new electric, I'm gonna start brushing up on my scales, I think.
Oh, that sounds nice. You got your eyes on, or will it just be something on the spur of the moment?
Just a Les Paul Epitone, you know,
very
just
nice
something
choice.
cheap, man. I can't really afford anything extravagant.
I know the feeling. So, talk about your creative process behind writing a song. You have a lot out there. What sort of goes through your head when you're trying to write one?
Well, basically, I try to produce a drum beat, and if I can't produce one, I'll just grab a sample and map out some drums. Then I'll kind of play a couple of guitar parts and see which one works the best. And then I'll build the track from there. Then I'll add the bass. And kind of lyrics is like the last thing I do. I kind of just produce an instrumental, and then I kind of write lyrics over the top of it if I can. I find that my verses are weaker than my choruses because, I don't know, I find that I can write a chorus a lot quicker and a lot easier and fluently than compared to when I'm writing verses, which annoys me.
Mm. And is there anything particular behind your lyrics? Is there often a message, or is it just what comes to you at the time?
Yeah, I guess it's just what comes to me at the time. I mean, some of them are getting quite dark. There's one about there's a girl I kind of know, and it's kind of situated around her, and she's got like a heavy drug addiction, and like she'll basically rob you of whatever you have, and it's kind of one's kind of not about her, but kind of the situation that she's kind of in.
Yeah.
And you know, that's a kind of new thing for me. I kind of used to write more pop punky stuff and reggae, but yeah, I don't know. It's a hard one. I think the easiest thing to say is that I just kind of write it, but yeah, I just write it.
And you mentioned there you write in a few different styles. Do you almost choose a style before you start writing a song, or does it come with you as you begin to write it?
Yeah, a lot lately I kind of think, well, I'm going to make a hardcore track, and then I'll make a hardcore track. But it all depends on what kind of drums that I manage to produce or find, because at the moment I'm trying to get more NoFX style drums, like 16th double times, and trying to produce that beat, I find it very, very hard. So it's easier to find a sample, but I haven't found a sample that's as good as Smelly from NoFX. So it's kind of hard for the moment.
And is there any style that you prefer to write in, or is a particular favourite for you to make music of?
I love making ska tracks. I really enjoy them. I have a lot of fun with them. I find that I can kind of be a bit more silly with the lyrics and a bit more light-hearted and playful.
Yeah.
Which, well, it kind of sucks if all your songs are depressing all the time, doesn't it? So, like, it's always good to have a couple of ska tracks that kind of change things a bit and make it a bit more lively.
And do you have a favourite song of that sort of genre that you've made before, or would you say they're all up there?
My favourite one that I've made so far out of the ska tracks is I Wish I Was a Skinhead. Yeah, it just makes me laugh because I was a little punk rocker when I was younger, but you know, I used to go around in like cherry red DM boots and like punk rock leather jackets and stuff like that, mohawks, and I don't know, it just reminded me of like my younger times when I was writing that. So yeah, it's a fun track, I think.
Sounds fantastic. And you've sent in quite a lot of music to us. You mentioned a project called Harwell Hooligans before. How did that come about?
Oh, right. Well, me and the other guy in the Hooligans, we grew up, well, he moved to my street when he was 17, but moved away with uni, and now he lives down in Worthing, I think. And so when I started making like the hardcore punk tracks and told him that I got a bass, but I was limited to what I could play, he said that he'd play some. So I was like, yeah, that's really cool, man. And yeah, and it's been great because it means I don't have to dictate melodies or anything like that. I can just sit back and like the bassist will pick the melodies or the chords, and then I'll just play whatever over the top. It means my work's a bit less, but unfortunately, he doesn't really know a lot about production. So, like, I have to produce them, which makes them kind of, I don't know. I don't think that they're as good as they could be because I tend to rush stuff. I tend to think, oh, I need to get this out now. I need to get this out now. When really, I should take more time over my music and think about it a little bit more.
Yeah. And would you say working with a second person almost changes your creative process, or would you say it's a very similar process as you would writing for a solo song?
Yeah, well, obviously, we'd have to do the beginning part with the drums. What I have to do is I pick out the chorus drums, the verse, and the middle eight. I'll send them to Liam. Then Liam will play a nice little bass lick over the top of them, send them back, and then yeah, it goes from there. And then I start layering it with the guitars and the other stuff. So.
And you mentioned earlier Nirvana sort of inspired you to come into music. Would you call them your musical inspirations, or are there other artists out there that you're inspired by at the minute?
Definitely Rancid. I've always been a big Rancid fan, but then there's also 311, which is like a reggae metal kind of, yeah, it's a weird genre, but I really like 311, Sublime, Bad Manners, the Specials. I don't know, man. There's so many that like I believe like music is like kung fu. There's many styles, there's many ways that you can just like learn from and to kind of jam them together in your own way, and that's what I kind of try and do.
Yeah. So are they the sort of bands you're listening to at the minute, or do you have anyone else in your sort of playlist that you're really excited for?
A band on Fat Records called Get Dead. I've been really loving a couple of their tracks. Pepper Spray, that's a really good track by Get Dead, and so is Fire Sale, and I can't remember the other name of the other track, but it's a really good album that they've just put out, and I believe everybody should actually listen to it. It's one of the best Fat Records bands at the moment, and that's a shame, but still.
And you mentioned all of that. What would you say is your biggest musical achievement? What are you most proud of in the music world?
I don't know, man. I haven't, like, I try not to take it all too seriously or anything. Like, I supported Cap Down, 4 Foot Fingers, and Sponge. These are all, like, British ska bands and punk bands when I was, like, 16, 17.
Yeah.
So, like, that was the most accomplished thing I'd done, but that was also the first thing I'd done, and it kind of all gone downhill from there. You know.
Is there any particular, like, coming off from that, is there any particular song you'd say you're very proud of?
No. Like, I don't feel like if you'd asked me this, like, 6 years ago, I would have been like, well, such and such I think is a great song, and I'm so wicked, and but a lot's changed, and I kind of understand where I am a bit more, and I understand that, like, it's hard to explain.
Yeah. So, what would you say your future goals for music are? What's coming up that you're really excited for?
Well, I'm going to be working on some more Harwell Hooligans tracks with Liam. We've got a couple on the go at the moment, and they're a bit more pop punky than straight up punk or ska that we were doing. So we're trying to do the musical kung fu with the Harwell Hooligans. So we're as many genres of punk as we can.
Yeah.
You know, we don't limit ourselves to one subgenre of punk rock. We kind of look at it as like one whole thing, and it's like we can take sections off of all of it.
Yeah. So what would you say your favourite music to create is? Would you say that's your solo projects, or would you say that's more the Harwell Hooligan type stuff?
I prefer the Harwell Hooligan stuff. It's a lot more fun. Like, it's a bit easier as well because at the moment the way we're doing it, as I said, like I get Liam to play his little bass first. Like, not his little bass. I didn't mean it like that, but I meant his little bass part.
Yeah.
But yeah, it kind of takes the pressure off me to keep coming up with fresh power chords and fresh progressions and stuff like this. So like, and Liam's really great at doing wandering bass lines. So it can sound a bit more like Rancid if I wanted it to, or if we wanted it to, which is really cool. And yeah, I don't know.
Where did the name Harwell Hooligans actually come from?
Well, as I said, my friend lived on our street, and it's in a village called Harwell near a place called Wantage and a place called Didcot. And we kind of live in between both towns. And we both worked at the corner shop, and we were both punk rockers. And so, but it's kind of silly because we don't live there now, but we're called the Harwell Hooligans. You know what I mean? It's just reminiscent of like the times when we did hang around together.
Yeah.
You know?
So you mentioned Did. Was there a big thing sort of in between that sort of spurred this project on?
Well, I was kind of getting frustrated with lockdown, to be perfectly honest. And I remembered all the time I used to spend like making beats and making tracks, and like time just kind of flew.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to get that back, but every time I sat down, it just didn't feel right. I just didn't feel like making music. But then I kind of almost forced myself to write some lyrics, and then I wrote some more, and I wrote some more, and I wrote some more. So I just kept going, kept writing, and they're getting a bit better, a bit worse. I don't know. I'm a bit slap happy with it, but yeah.
Yeah. And would you say that's one of your big pushes towards creating more music?
Yeah, I love starting a project and I love finishing a project. Everything in between is just kind of almost like a blur because it's like having a puzzle. You know,
Yeah.
You've got a couple of pieces and then you can build your own pieces and make your own. And so I find it relaxing. I can just spend a lot of time producing music at the moment.
Yeah. And is there a particular way, because I know this differs per artist, is there a particular way you like to distribute your music? Because I've had a look, you're not the most present on social media. Is getting it out there just almost automatic feeling, or is it the sort of urge for people to listen to it?
I think it's mostly I'll put it out there and dump it, and just like if people like it, people like it. If people don't, then there's no skin off my nose because it didn't cost me anything, did it?
Yeah.
You know. So like, I have put a reggae track out on iTunes back in 2013, and I think it's on Spotify. I don't know. I don't really care about it. Like, it's like a pop reggae track that I made, like after I done my catch-up course on production at Reading College.
Yeah.
So it was there was a part of the course where we had, like, they said, "Oh, produce a track and put it on SoundCloud." Well, I always do that. So I was like, how about I produce a track and put it on iTunes? Because I've never done that before. And like my lecturer said, yeah, I could do it. So I've done it, you know.
And is there a particular reason you stick to SoundCloud and don't almost explore the sort of iTunes and Spotify world more?
When me and Liam get a few more tracks together, we were thinking about putting out a free release on iTunes, and then going from there, to be honest. But we wasn't going to use any of the tracks that we've put on SoundCloud, I don't think. We were going to come up with like new tracks, put them out as a free release on iTunes maybe, and then see where it goes from there, see if we get any downloads. You know. Yeah.
And do you have a sort of almost project path mapped out for Harwell Hooligans, or your future releases, or is it a sort of go as it comes sort of feel?
Yeah, it's definitely go as it comes, man. Like, I'm not very good at planning many future events, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah. Well, is there anything you're sort of particularly aiming for? Is there sort of a loose target you have, or will it be you sort of create something and you'll put it out straight away and then it's just on to the next one?
At the moment, that's exactly what I'm doing, is just creating it and creating something and on to the next one. But the more I work with Liam, the more time's being spent over the tracks, and so I think it will change in the future. I think we'll get all the tracks sorted and then put them all out together rather than one by one as they're done in the future.
Yeah. And you mentioned you sort of got back into music during lockdown. Have you ever found there's almost a more difficult process doing it, being almost more isolated than being able to collaborate in person?
Well, man, the problem that I have is I don't know anybody that actually, other than Liam, that actually plays punk rock. Like my younger brother, he's a musician. Shout out to Worried About Mike. that's his name. But he likes to busk in Swindon. But like my brother, he's into like doing like acoustic covers and busking and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So like my brother's not interested in like making music the same as me. My other friends, they're DJs, producers, and like hip hop heads and drum and bass heads. So
Yeah.
I've got basically nobody that kind of even cared what music I made, do you know? So it's a weird one. So I've kind of always made music, like since being in a band when I was 17. I've always made music on my own. Like, yeah. So it's no difference to me. Like this lockdown thing, making music on my own is kind of, yeah. It's what I'm used to. It makes lockdown on easy mode.
Yeah, yeah. Well, finally, my co-host Dan couldn't make it to this, so his one input for this interview, he wants to ask you, what do you think is the best biscuit?
Ginger nut, mate.
Oh, a classic there.
Yeah, definitely a ginger nut.
Yeah. Well, it's been absolutely fantastic speaking to you, Danny. By Danny Mac, followed by A Hard Day's Night by the Beatles, and finished off by Ace of Spades by Motorhead. Apologies for any minor technical difficulties there. Software's playing up a bit, but what else do you need on a Friday night? We're here, we're on the radio, and you can still hear us, so it's all still fantastic.